Good evening, everyone. We will just begin shortly. And a quick announcement, we do have interpretation services available in Spanish, Amharic, and Arabic.
Buenas noches, vamos a empezar en unos momentos. Si usted necesita interpretación en idioma español, por favor diríjase a la parte de abajo de su pantalla, ubique allí un pequeño globo terráqueo, haga clic en él y a la vez ubique español y haga clic en español y podrá usted escuchar esta sesión en idioma español. Muchas gracias.
سؤال.
Yes. مساء الخير، بنرحب فيكم بحضور هذه الجلسة. بنحب ننوه بأنه هذه المناقشة مزودة باللغات المختلفة الإسبانيولية والأمهرية والعربية، وبالتالي إذا أنتم كنتم عم تحضرون من الكمبيوتر الرجاء الضغط على إشارة الكرة الأرضية لاختيار اللغة المناسبة، وبالنسبة لكم اللغة العربية للسماع بهذه الجلسة بس باللغة العربية. إذا كنتوا تحضرون بالتليفون الضغط على النقاط الثلاثة وتختاروا اللغة المناسبة لكم ومن ضمنها العربية. وشكرا.
ጤና ይስጥልኝ፣ እንዴት አመሻችሁ? ዛሬ በትርጉም ለምትፈልጉ የትርጉም አገልግሎት እንሰጣለን በስፓኒሽኛ፣ አረብኛና አማርኛ እና ትርጉም የአማርኛ ትርጉም ለምትፈልጉ ሰዎች ኮምፒውተር ለምትጠቀሙ ከታች ግሎብ ወይም የዓለም ካርታ ባለበት እዛ ጋር ትጫኑና ከዛ አማርኛ አምሃሪክ የሚለውን ትመርጣላችሁ። ስልክ ለምትጠቀሙ ደግሞ በቀኝ በኩል 3 ነጠብጣብ ታያላችሁ። ከዛ እዛ ላይ ትጫኑና አማርኛ የሚለውን አምሃሪክ የሚለውን ትመርጣላችሁ። አመሰግናለሁ።
Dr. Hutchins, I will turn it over to you now.
Thank you. I mean, it is so awesome working in Alexandria City Public Schools and the diversity that we have. I mean, I just think that is just amazing that our students get this kind of experience, to have so many different languages spoken and for us to be able to interact with all of our families. So I just want to welcome you all to our high school project update to our community. I hope that you all are looking forward to getting some more information. I know people are excited about, this new building and structure that we're going to have at the Mini Howard campus. I know that we are. It's a time of, I think, celebration, and it's a time that we've all been waiting for so long. One thing I do want to just point out before I turn things over to Ms. Erica Gulick, who is our Director of Capital Program Planning and Design. And before I do that, I just want to just give you some insight to the discussion that happened just last week as we shared this information with our board. The school board is planning to take a vote on February 4th in regards to some of our co-location opportunities. And specifically, a hot discussion last week was around affordable housing. I'm sure many of our viewers tonight, they probably want to have questions, or they're here to hear some information in regards to our affordable housing. And some points that came out of the discussion with the school board last week specifically was us making sure that as we proceed with our planning, that flexibility is at the top of our list in regards to space on the structure, that it's able to be flexible. As we talk through our projections over the next 10 years, you will see that we may need to have some wiggle room to provide additional spaces for students in the future. And we want to make sure that we are not hindering ourselves from being able to expand if need be. We also want to make sure that everything that we do relates to trying to serve the educational programming of ACPS first, and some innovative ways that came out of the test fits that you're going to see today is just having some support services located in our schools. And also us thinking about the future of ACPS. And one deep conversation that we had last week with the school board was in regards to potentially having some central office space or ACPS office space on the premises, because we currently do have a leased space that we will not be in this lease forever. And we want to be able to potentially utilize land that we own to expand some of that and make sure that that is still flexible, though, so that if we needed to pivot into having additional student spaces, that we could. But Ms. Gulick and her team will be able to go more specifically into these test fits, as well as some of the considerations, as well as barriers that this brings to us. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Ms. Gulick.
Thank you, Dr. Hutchings. Good evening, everybody. Happy New Year. We're glad to be back to talk about the high school project. I'll ask Ms. Madea Johar to pull up the presentation so you all can see it. And so again, wanting to talk through some of the initial work that our architect team, who you'll meet at the end of this meeting, has started to do for us related to test fitting, especially for the co-location options. I want to be clear, we're focusing this conversation tonight. There is still a lot happening on the educational programming side of the house, and the educational design team is hard at work, but we want to focus tonight's conversation on some of these test fits and the co-location. If we can go to the next slide, please. And a reminder to everybody at the top that interpretation services are available if you've just joined us. So tonight we're going to go through some of these test fits. We're going to talk about the different impacts and considerations of the massing on the sites. We're going to have a period for questions and answers, and then we're going to introduce our architect team who will be working with us over the next few years as we design and construct the new building at Mini Howard. If we can go to the next slide, please. So why are we meeting today? We want to make sure you have an update on these preliminary test fits. We want to collect your feedback to be able to provide it to the school board for their February 4th decision on the co-location of affordable housing. And then we want to inform you on some of the next steps. Next slide, please. So to be clear about some of the key decisions our school board will be making over the next few months. The first is this decision about the co-location of affordable housing and whether or not that will be included in the design. As Dr. Hutchings mentioned, this was discussed at length last Thursday, and the school board will be making a decision on February 4th. From there, we'll be able to move forward to develop a comprehensive space program, an educational specification to be used for our design, and that will be presented on February 18th with a decision on March 4th. And then from there, we will develop design concepts based on all those spaces to be included. Again, presenting March 18th with a decision on April 8th. Next slide. Some of our assumptions and considerations. Most of these consistent with what you may have seen in November if you joined us for that open house. First, that the school program is our #1 priority. Second, that we will have no net loss of athletic fields or public open space that currently exists at the site. Third, that we will require flexibility with zoning and height. We need more square footage than is currently allowed. And to do that, we will need a zoning adjustment, regardless of if affordable housing is included or not. We are assuming some underground parking, and we'll talk about what the cost impacts of that might be. And we do want to consider accommodating our current space deficits, so spaces we don't currently have at T.C. Williams King Street or in other parts of our connected high school network. Next slide. Just to talk about enrollment projections, as some of you may know, the pandemic of COVID-19 has impacted ACPS enrollment. In particular, our enrollment did go down this year. And so with that, we have seen an impact in our 10-year projections. So this doesn't, still indicating that we need the redevelopment at the Mini Howard campus, but providing us some time before we get to that 5,000 student number. And so this just shows you a difference at the top in orange of our current 10-year enrollment projections, and then below of our previous 10-year enrollment projections, which you may have seen last year. This is important because, as Dr. Hutchings mentioned at the beginning, we really need to provide flexibility for some of the unknowns in our enrollment and capacity changes in the future. Next slide, please. So which co-location options are we considering and will you see in these test fits? The first is potential administrative functions such as city and ACPS offices. The second is an inclusion of a teen wellness center, which we currently support at TC Williams King Street campus. The third is some of the Department of Community and Human Services programs, including some shared spaces for different programs that they have to support our students, as well as early childhood learning. We did look at the inclusion of affordable housing, as well as continuing our co-location and partnership with recreation, parks, and cultural activities with the shared use of fields, a gymnasium, and a new pool. Next slide. So when we did meet with you last year in November, we did receive a lot of feedback on these co-location options. In particular, we've heard from community members that they are generally opposed to co-locating affordable housing or any housing on a school site. The community members who support affordable housing and agree that we need more of it still had concerns about whether or not it's appropriate to co-locate affordable housing on school sites. And then in general, our community members were supportive of some of those other co-location opportunities I mentioned, such as fields, the Teen Wellness Center, or child care facilities. Next slide. So to talk about the site, the existing site, before I'll have Dawood present the test fits that have been developed. The current site is 12 acres in total. About half of it is for the fields or open space, as you can see in the picture. And about the other half is for parking and the building. It is common practice, and we are planning to, in this scenario, switch the two. So the school will be where the fields are, and the fields will be where the school is. We will be seeking to optimize our land use, of course, to maintain as much of that field, to maintain the fields and potentially add. And again, just reiterating that rezoning will be required in any scenario. Next slide. Before we present the test fits, I want to make sure everybody understands what is a test fit and what is it not. So you will see drawings of potential buildings on this site. And we want to be clear that all this is representing is a configuration that shows us what is physically possible, how big of the size of the massing or the amount of square footage of a building we could accommodate, some potential layouts or configurations of that. It helps us identify some challenges and also helps us plan for budget and schedule in the future. The test fit is not in any way a final site layout that we will actually pursue. It is not the final program for the building or amenity space. It is not a design concept and does not represent the final design or what we will ultimately build at the Mini Howard site. Next slide, please. So some of the initial assessment highlights from these test fits are that it confirms that we can physically accommodate a new school building for 1,600 students, that we can do this while having no net loss of athletic fields or public open space, and that all co-located uses under consideration can be accommodated, including either affordable housing or city and ACPS administrative offices. The additional square footage you'll see on the coming slides for affordable housing is for approximately 60 to 85 units, or alternatively could be about 70 to 80,000 square foot of office building. We'll be continuing to work on the budget and the schedule for this project based on this information, If we could go to the next slide, please. So on the next slides that Dawood will present, some of the trade-offs and considerations that he will go through are, we tried to look at what is the financial impact, the effect on the school program, or the effect on future expansion of including these different co-location opportunities and these different test fits. I'll now turn it over to Dawood Abdurrahman, the project director for the high school project, to talk through the next few slides.
Dawood, you're on mute, sir.
Thank you, Erica. And I'll go briefly and provide a high-level overview of the test fits that have been conducted by our project architect, Perkins Eastman Architects. I'm going to start from left to right and just start out by saying that generally, when we're talking about test fits, as we've mentioned, we're not talking about design. What we are talking about are various ways to fit the various program elements that we have been exploring and considering on the site to determine if they're physically and basically feasible and worthy of additional study and consideration. Once again, no decisions have been made so far. I want to start with the test fit to the upper left-hand corner, and I don't know if it's possible to point that test fit there, is that mass there represents either affordable housing, or it could be flexible office spaces that could become, or administrative spaces that could become classroom spaces if designed with those considerations up front. The kind of the orange massing is the school massing that we're trying to accommodate on the site. Once again, we need to accommodate a minimum of 1,600 students. And then to the left is the, I'm sorry, continuing to move right to the left is on the same test fit, we're showing the fields. Once again, our goal is to have a minimum of no net loss of fields. And if there's opportunities to add additional program because we have some deficits with physical education and athletic programs, we will look for those opportunities. But there's two basic ways that we can accommodate this program, these program elements. One is to separate the affordable housing and administrative spaces from the school building. The other is to move that yellow box of massing around the site. So at the top left-hand massing, we see the affordable housing furthest east, closer to Bradley Shopping Center, for those of you who are familiar with the neighborhood. In the next test fit, we show affordable housing or administrative spaces in the center of the site, almost right on Braddock Road. And then on the other test fit, we take the affordable housing or administrative spaces and push it as far away from the school massing as possible. In each one of these test fits, we are assuming underground parking. We assume that we know that as it relates to cost, underground parking is the most expensive way that we could accommodate parking. And if we chose in other test fits to have above ground parking, we could save money, but then we would actually sort of eliminate some land area for future expansion. So when we talk about test fits and trade-offs, those are the kinds of discussions that we've been having. If you look at going back again to the test fit onto the upper left-hand corner, where you see the dotted line by the school buildings, that those little areas there, and you'll see this repeated on all the test fits, are showing areas of possible expansion where we're thinking through now how we could possibly expand the campus. Once again, anytime we have affordable housing or administrative spaces that take up land area, we limit our expansion opportunities. And as Erica mentioned, that's one of the #1 priorities from the school board, under the overall priority that the school program is the primary reason that we're developing this particular campus. I did want to mention that on all 3 of these test fits, a general concern that we've heard from stakeholders and from the community is the concern of co-locating adults and school uses on the same site. So on all these test fits, where we're kind of separating the office or housing massing from the school, there is a concern about security, operations, protocols, possible costs. And those are the kind of things that if one of these concepts or some approach that's suggested in these concepts is ultimately decided to be pursued during design, we would have to really answer those questions in more detail. In all these test fits, we're also beginning to think about how could you access the site? How could you provide circulation around the site? And that's one of the reasons that we want to preserve land area for extended learning areas and also for transportation, for buses, emergency vehicles, things of that nature, parent drop off. All those things are important for land considerations. So next slide. So this is a summary of what kind of the high level trade-offs and considerations, as we mentioned that we talked through with the school board last year, that we talked about that there's cost implications for underground parking on all of these sites. If we co-located administrative functions or affordable housing, there will be some initial development costs, but that might be offsets by long-term lease cost savings. There's security and operations cost implications and policy implications associated with integrating affordable housing or adults generally on school sites that to be considered. And we do want to acknowledge that affordable housing is self-funding, so there is no cost impact for affordable housing on the school project budget. On the school program, once again, we just reiterated again that the security protocols, operations, and policy that need to be considered. Any affordable housing that we would provide or administrative spaces limits potentially future flexibility. And once again, we want to make sure that if we're looking at affordable housing or administrative spaces, with affordable housing, we think we have less flexibility in the future for school expansion, but we believe that we could think through and plan administrative spaces in the way that they could be more easily converted to learning spaces if necessary. Next slide, please. So the next two test fits demonstrate a slightly different approach. In the first three test fits, we showed what it looked like to separate, once again, those lightly colored boxes from the more orange colored boxes. The lightly colored boxes represent what could be affordable housing or administrative spaces. The orange boxes, once again, represent school building, massing. Once again, these are massing, not design. Possible locations, not necessarily reflecting orientation or that level of design consideration. And the reason we would do this is to say, if we wanted to preserve as much land area as possible, how could we concentrate the mass into the actual school building? On the test fit to the left, we sort of integrate a kind of a wing of the massing that has affordable housing and or administrative spaces that could possibly sit on top of some one level of school use where you have a lot of access to the public. And then in the other test fit to the right, we take the full advantage of flexibility as it relates to height and put all the massing that could represent affordable housing or administrative spaces literally on top of a school building. In that particular test fit, all the considerations, and even in both of these test fits, the considerations that we had about security, operations, protocols, and costs become more important, they're all important, but we study them even further because of the very close and integrated proximity of this massing in the school building. In one of these test fits, the one to the left, we have underground parking, but in the test fit to the right, where we've actually thrown the massing for the office space or affordable housing on top of the school, we suggest the idea that we bring a parking above grade. What that does, it does reduce costs, but it does have the effect of creating some stormwater management and other environmental issues, and even some site development cost issues. In all of these test fits, the previous three and even these two, we are mindful, and we'll be talking about this in more detail as we continue to study the program, study the site, get into the educational specification, and then ultimately into the design. The meeting our net zero requirement is always a challenge on our projects, and we think we're going to be actually challenged to have enough roof space for photovoltaic panels to provide energy for this site. So even though it's physically possible to integrate this additional massing into the school program. It's certainly on the test fit where we show the massing on top of the school, it begins to impact it begins to impact the height considerations and might affect our ability to meet our net zero requirements. But once again, on both of these test fits, we're able to accommodate physically all of the program areas. There's trade-offs and considerations that are slightly different from the other three that we have kind of presented to the board and asking for your feedback tonight. Next slide, please. And so this is a summary. Once again, if we have underground parking, it's more expensive. If we raise the parking because we move some of the massing on top of a building, we do save that money, but it does create some cost impacts as it relates to, it's site impacts. It saves money, but it relates to site impacts as it relates to stormwater management. Once again, we have some increased development costs if we choose administrative spaces. We have even a heightened concern for security and operations cost implications because of the complete integration of the administrative spaces and the potential housing into the school program. And we acknowledge again that affordable housing is self-funded, so there's no cost impact. As it relates to the school program, there's considerations for security operations and protocols. Affordable housing, we think is a less flexible and leaves less opportunities as it relates to land area for future expansion. That's a future expansion and effect on school program implication. And once again, if we pursue the option of having administrative and office spaces on campus, we believe that it could be designed in the future so that we could more easily accommodate teaching and learning spaces. Next slide, please. So at this point, I'm going to turn it back to Erica Gulick to take us through a summary and then the rest of the presentation and evening.
Thank you, Dawood. And so at this point, we do want to offer, there is a comment form for you to leave comments. I know some of you are putting in questions in the chat, which we are going to answer in a few moments. But also, please, if you have comments that you would like to be shared with the school board, please send them in to us. We'll be compiling them probably Thursday of this week to post with the school board decision for the February 4th meeting. And at this point, we can start taking questions. So I'm going to introduce Azuka Bartlett. Some of you may recognize her. She's been a project manager with us for a while, working on the Ferdinand T. Day Elementary School project and a lot of other ones. But she'll be facilitating some of the questions, and I will either answer them myself or hand them off to someone else to answer. So Azuka, our new Senior Capital Program Manager, if you can please start us off.
All right, thank you, Erica. Good evening, everyone. So we have a question. I was so excited to see the word pool on these documents after all of these years of disappointment with our non-regulation indoor pool. Can you address more about the plans and confirm that our high school would have priority for practices and meets? Thank you.
Thanks, Azuka, and thank you to the community member who submitted that question. We are also excited for the pool. I do want to be clear and set expectations that pools are expensive and they are hard to accommodate with net zero. And of course, with our school program being the priority and some of these other requirements, it may be something we have to take a closer look at in the future. But to answer that question a little more thoroughly, I will ask maybe Mr. James Parker or Mr. Jack Brown, if you want to add anything about the potential pool program.
Yes, this is James Parker. Yes, it would be used for school use. Our teams would be able to utilize the pool just like we currently utilize our facilities in working together with the rec department. We would schedule that accordingly with the rec department as well as use for the community.
Yeah, no, I just want to echo what Mr. Parker said. So like we do now with many co-located programs within the schools and the community, we would work out those details and ensure that during school time and or after school use with regard to athletics, there'd likely be a first preference with schools, but then during the sort of non-school hours and other times of the year, there would be community programming. So we would continue to work on those type of agreements like we do with existing programs and services.
Okay, thank you. Zuka, we'll take another question.
All right. How do you monitor residents with firearms and drugs within their homes on school property? And I think this is related to affordable housing discussion we were having.
Thank you. And of course, as Dawood mentioned, there are a lot of security and operational protocols that would have to be put in place. I would say a lot of our schools are next to housing. And so while this will be different in that it's maybe on our space right now, it's something we would have to work through. But is someone from housing able to talk a little bit about the application process and other things? Hi, Brandy. Oh, Brandy's here. Great.
Yeah, hi, Erica. Thank you for the question. As Erica shared before, if we look at schools currently located in Alexandria, many of them are located either adjacent or across the street from existing residential communities. So the residents of affordable housing would have the same rights as all Alexandrians. In terms of vetting folks and determining who is living on site, all affordable housing projects and developments in Alexandria vet their residents. All the residents go through a background check to make sure that that the residents who live there are promoting a safe living environment for folks.
Okay, thank you. Mazuka?
Yes. How do you propose to secure school children with affordable housing literally on top of the school?
So obviously that presents a much different challenge, or more of a challenge than if it's a separate building. But again, a lot of that can be done through design with separate entrances, separate fire exits, separate parking. So certainly something we have to consider, and something that we do think would be an impact potentially on cost and just how we operate the site. But again, something that through design could potentially be addressed. Brandy, if you want anything to add anything, you're welcome.
Yeah, just to add very briefly, there's some right now with land being very scarce, there are a lot of projects that include multiple tenants in that building. And one way to regulate who goes where is regulating who has access to different floors via the elevators, also who can go in different space in different parts of the parking garage. As Erica shared, that all can be remedied through design and through foresight in terms of promoting security for all the users. Because you wouldn't want, I'm sure residents of affordable housing wouldn't want students coming into their space either. So there's an incentive for both the affordable housing developer and also ACPS to get the design and security just right for everyone.
Okay, thank you. Zuka?
Yes. All right. To what extent is ACPS considering strategies to reduce demand for parking, which would enable a facility with less parking?
So that's a great question as well. And so getting a little bit more to our transportation demand management and making sure that we're promoting as many alternate modes of transportation as possible to the site. That's something we do look at. We will be providing bike facilities, of course, as a part of this. I would note too that we still have our DASH partnership for our high school students. And so that may help to alleviate some of the parking, and continuing to work with the city team and Transportation Environmental Services on some of the different things we can do to incentivize carpooling, incentivize using public transportation, and other things we do throughout the city to reduce the amount of parking on the site. Because that is definitely a consideration for our environment and our wallets. So that's a good question.
Okay, I definitely feel that it would be best to keep the larger buildings closer to the shopping center or Braddock Road versus small townhomes. How many floors are you considering for these structures?
Can I ask possibly someone from the Perkins Eastman team? I know we haven't formally introduced you yet, but how many floors we're looking at, maybe Omar or Sean, on these buildings?
Omar, do you want to tackle that one, or otherwise I can?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Oh, well, again, we're just exploring the fit on the site, so you can see that the options vary a bit from scenario from test fit to test fit. Excuse me, I'm a little tongue-tied, but we're looking typically around 4 stories, depending upon the scenario that we're looking at. It's also important to note that there's a lot of topography on the site, so the building mass will vary as we move across the site, particularly as we go towards the east. So there might be entrances, at a level that feels like the first floor, but maybe there's another floor that actually descends through the site. So we're very sensitive, of course, to the massing and to the essence of the question, I think, and working to make sure that the building is appropriate for its context.
Okay, and just so you know, Medea is going to bring back up the presentation so people can see the WUFU form link to go to leave us a comment. I would note too, I think I forgot to say it before, but all the questions you submit tonight, even if we don't get a chance to answer them, we will collect them. We'll be developing frequently asked questions and updating the webpage as soon as possible. But you can also fill out this feedback comment form. We'll be collecting those as well to provide to the school board for the February 4th meeting. So we'll be collecting those by late this week. And you can email us anytime at hsproject@acps.k12.va.us. The whole project team gets those emails. So certainly if you send us a comment, we will receive that. But Azuka, we could go to the next question.
Okay. As the fire marshal has limited the number of stories for a school to 4, how are the 2 upper stories of Ferdinand T. Day School being used?
So this is not on the high school project, but Azuka, thank you for the question. Azuka, do you want to answer that? Because you know that better than anyone.
Sure. So the top two floors of Ferdinand T. Day are being used as office spaces. Currently, we have some of the ACPS departments residing in there, FACE and Safety and Security. And the ACPS is planning in the future to utilize the whole 2 floors for ACPS departments.
Okay, thanks. Go to the next one.
Okay, what is the timeline for design plan finalizations, breaking ground, students in the building?
Okay, thanks for that question. I'm going to let Dawood answer that question. He's got it at the top of his head, I'm sure.
No, yeah, we have it on mute. So I'll just say that we're marching through a series of decisions with the school board right now, and I'll just say that as it relates to finalization, we want to, and I'll speak it from the perspective of concept design. We're looking to submit a concept design this April, so that concept design will then evolve through various stages and then be finalized through the rest of the year and into the beginning of 2022. The goal is to break ground in the spring of 2022 as a part of the capital improvement program budget. There are some funds set aside in fiscal year 22 to break ground. And then ultimately we would get to a school opening in time for school year beginning September 2024. So that's a concept design this spring with the school board, completing it over about a year period, beginning to breaking ground next spring, and then a school opening in the school year beginning September 2024. Thank you for the question.
Okay, next question. Would residents in the event of adoption of test fit 4B be subject to fire drill evacuations as the students are?
So those are all things we'll have to consider. The idea is that even if it were on top, that the buildings could potentially be fire separated. So they wouldn't have to abide necessarily by our evacuation protocol, but that's a good question. Certainly something to consider if we do move forward with an option such as that.
Okay, next question. Bradley Shopping Center is overdue for redevelopment. Has anyone considered contacting Washington Real Estate Investment Trust to see if the southeast parking lot facing Braddock Road could be acquired to increase the land area available for this project?
So that's a good question. We are not currently exploring additional property other than what we already own as part of this project. But thanks for bringing that up. I think that's all we need to probably say. Did you want to say anything about that? I don't know.
No, I think that's appropriate. I mean, we believe that the program can be accommodated on the site with the trade-offs that we mentioned, and we'll look for a decision from the school board to optimize the site that we have, and not increase the project budget with additional acquisition costs for this project, at least initially.
What specific zoning variances are being requested? Is there going to be an FAR variance?
Sorry, I have too many things. So yes, we will require an FAR variance for this zoning. Dirk, I see you came up. You probably could answer this question better than me. So do you want to just respond to that?
Yeah, sure, happy to. Dirk Garretts with the Department of Planning and Zoning. So as part of this project, in order to meet the FAR requirements, there would need to be a rezoning of the portion of the property that's currently residential. And that new rezoning would establish the FAR, which is the floor area ratio. There would be no variance for the FAR because the new zoning would permit that by right.
Okay, thank you. I'm looking, so there are some other questions in here. I think that we will probably address through our FAQs. Maybe could we do sorry, Azuka, I'm just pulling one out. A question maybe for Brandy. Could lower income ACPS staff have priority for housing?
Have to unmute here. Thank you. As of right now, we haven't determined any kind of income requirements for what would go there in terms of affordable housing. And what we do know, we have explored opportunities for providing preference to certain populations. For example, we thought about perhaps locating a property that would be for ACPS teachers, and we know that by law we can't do that because of fair housing rules. But we are exploring different ways to provide a range of housing options, a range of income options for folks if we were to be able to locate affordable housing on the site. Does that answer the question, Erica?
I think so.
Okay.
A lot of similar questions. Sorry, Azuka, do you see another one? Maybe that we haven't kind of already done. Okay. Are there any other communities similar to Alexandria where this, which I'm guessing this is the co-location of housing and schools, been proven successful?
So there's a PowerPoint presentation that's on the Joint Facilities Master Plan webpage, where the Office of Housing created a slide deck of affordable housing options, existing co-location examples that are in the city that don't include school sites, but they do include other co-location options. But at the back of that slide deck, there are several examples of other communities that have successfully employed affordable housing and school sites. I'll just name 3 of those, and then you can reference the slide deck. Maybe we can put a link in the chat for folks. But there's a community in North Carolina that successfully located teacher housing with a school site. There's a site in New York City that co-located affordable housing and a charter school. And there's another project in California that located affordable housing and a school site. So there are some communities in the country that have done this. There are also some examples internationally that provided, that also have successfully employed affordable housing in school sites. But again, we haven't done it here in Alexandria, but that does not mean that we can't try that here. And and again, as I mentioned, there are other successful models of co-location of affordable housing in the city, but again, they are with either commercial, office, or early childhood learning facilities.
Thank you, Brandy. Next question, does anyone know off of hand how many students are in the current citywide kindergarten grade level class?
Thanks, Azuka. I'll take that one. So of course, this was a strange year. I know last year we had 1,512 kindergartners as of September 30, 2019. I think this year that dropped to more like either 13 something or almost 1,400 students. That is a great question because those become our future high school students. And so we kind of track them and what we call their cohort survival rate. And that's how we end up doing our projections. So when you see that impact that we showed of the push out of that 5,000 student number, a lot of that's based on the decrease. And Sophie, thank you. She just sent me the number. It was actually 1,266 kindergartners as of September 30th of 2020. So we may see us gain back more of those students as the school year goes on, but a significant decrease, and we'll have to see what happens in the future. We'll continue to monitor that.
Okay. Thank you, Erica. What weight is being given the public inputs you have and are soliciting?
Jawood, do you want to answer that question?
Yes, let me see. I want to make sure could you repeat that question again? I want to make
Yes,
sure.
What weight is being given to the public inputs you have and are soliciting?
Oh, I'll say that we've taken the public, we've taken it very seriously and given it a lot of weight to the degree, and let me slow down for the interpreter, sorry, to the degree that we've made sure to incorporate a summary of all the public input in all of our school board and city council presentations. And we have provided copies of all the unfiltered comments that we've solicited from all and received from all community members, whether they've been at our open houses or with communities that have invited us to their specific community meetings. They've given us time on their agenda. So all those questions are consolidated, accumulated, and incorporated into all of our report outs to all the decision makers. So we take the community feedback very seriously.
Okay, thank you, Dawood. Next question, what is ACPS asking the school board to decide on February 4th meeting?
Thank you. And another good question. So the school board is being asked to decide on whether or not affordable housing will be included as a part of the co-located Mini Howard redevelopment design. And this will allow us to move forward to develop the ed spec, which will ultimately be what we design and ultimately what we build. And so it's really critical for us to have that conversation, for us to have that decision on whether or not housing will be included so that we can start moving on the design. Again, I would reiterate for those of you who did not watch the school board meeting last Thursday, you could certainly go watch it, but there's definitely a sentiment of the school board members. And as we just discussed with enrollment, that we may want to reserve as much square footage and space for the schools as possible, not knowing what the future may hold for the high school and seeing how high those numbers do get in our high school enrollment. So you can certainly see that on the school board meeting or join us on February 4th for that decision. But we appreciate all the discussion tonight around this subject, and it will help inform their decision making, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you, Erica. Does the school board's decision on co-location supersede any decision made by City Council?
So the school board's decision on co-location allows us to move forward through the ACPS design process. Ultimately, the City Council approves the design through the development special use permit. But for this particular discussion, which we haven't had before, this is the process we have laid out, and we don't see any reason the City Council would deny our design or may come back and ask us to include something that we haven't included because the school board is moving forward with this project on its end. So I wouldn't say it supersedes anything from the City Council, but it certainly should move forward as the final decision.
Okay, thank you. What type of administration offices will be potentially co-located at Mini Howard?
Maybe Dawood Dawood, why don't you want to take this one?
Okay, I'll start with that, and I'll say that what's been discussed, and this is kind of ironic, is that I understand that the central office actually used to be housed at the Mini Howard campus. So that's certainly one of the administrative offices that is under consideration. And I would say generally any use where there's administrative space that's also serving the public is under consideration. I haven't seen a consolidated list yet. And also generally where the city is in lease space. So where the city or the school system is in lease space, and there's a kind of a support for the school and the public, like the central office, that type of use is really ideal for consideration on this campus, especially because if it's ACPS space, it's kind of compatible with the school program by definition. So those are the kind of considerations that we're looking at when we talk about co-location.
Okay, thank you. Have funds been identified to co-locate ACPS or city administration offices?
Do you want me to take that one too? Not yet. And that's a good question. As we noted in the presentation, the affordable housing, if the massing were used for affordable housing, is self-funded. But if we went through the process of identifying an appropriate use, we would have to really coordinate with the capital improvement program budget and expiring leases and other considerations to provide funds and make sure that we plan the site in a way that it could accommodate that future use.
Thanks. And just to let everybody know, Medea is going to share the screen again. We got a request to see the list of co-location opportunities that we're exploring. So just let her pull that up. And let's probably take maybe 2 more questions, and then I want to make sure Perkins Eastman has an opportunity to introduce themselves. So Medea, you're on the main screen. There we go.
Apologies.
No, that's okay. So that's the list. Azuka, you could leave it up maybe for a minute so people can read it. Azuka, do you want to ask the next question?
Yes. Will the school board meet in private or with any city official with any city officials in private, will we have the information that was shared?
So all information that we share with the school board has been posted publicly and is on our website, esppublic.acps.k12.va.us. They will be having this discussion, and the vote will be public in their meeting next Thursday, February 4th, and you can watch it. So they will be discussing all of this publicly.
With the Waypoint site and lack of green space for families other than Fort Worth within walking distance, why is there a focus on providing a portion for a park? Is there a disconnect? There is a disconnect in recreational outdoor space in the area, again, within walking distance for families.
Sorry, Azuka, is the question, why are we not providing a park?
I think that's what it means. I think this person is discussing the lack of green space, especially within a walking distance.
Okay. Jack, maybe do you want to take that one from RPCA?
Yeah, sure. Jack Broen with the planning section within Department of Recreation. So we actually treat many of the school sites similar to parks. So as was stated earlier, one of the base standards at this location with design was not to reduce the amount of current open space, but that the school sites do become community use during the after hours. So any amenities that are currently on the site and or will be replaced on the site, for example, any of the fields, potential hard court surfaces, whether they be tennis, basketball, or others, would be made available for community use after the school hours, both programmed and non-programmed as open drop-in use. So it may not look like a conventional park, but we have been successful at other locations, such as the Jefferson Houston site has been transformed to a large community use open space property, the Patrick Henry site, and we expect that also to be available at the MacArthur site. So we treat these similar to parks, but they may not look conventionally like a park.
Okay. Great. So I think those were two questions, right? Am I right? Those were two. So I think we're going to close out the Q&A session, but do appreciate all of your questions. I know we did not get to all of them. Some of them were a little bit similar, so I hope you do feel that we've addressed your question, but if not, again, we will be collecting all of them. We will be putting them, we will be developing frequently asked questions in order to, that will be posted on our website. So you can follow those. And of course, you are welcome to email that high school project email at any time. In order to reach us, those emails come directly to Dawood, myself, and other members of the project team. And we can certainly make sure your comment is included, or if you have a question, we can get back to you on that. So please feel free to email us. We'll pull that page back up. But I want to give our Perkins Eastman team an opportunity to introduce themselves. We did go through a very competitive bidding process for the high school project architect and design and engineering team. They have a big team and a lot of experience in Alexandria and experience with us. And so we're happy to have them be a part of this project. So I'll turn it over to Sean O'Donnell, who is the principal and K-12 area leader for Perkins Eastman, to introduce his team and talk a little bit about the project. So go ahead, Sean.
Great, thanks, Erica. And thanks everybody for joining us this evening. We're really excited to be working with ACPS, the community, the city, and all the stakeholders to the process. Again, I'm the principal in charge for the design team, so I'm responsible for the overall delivery of the project with Perkins Eastman Architects. Just to take a moment to introduce our firm, The hallmark of our school design practice in many ways is that we design sustainable, high performance learning environments that enhance educational outcomes and that actively engage the community in the process and also in the use of the facilities, creating schools that are the centers of their communities. We do a lot of other things though too, as you'll see in a moment, and I'll introduce my partners here in a minute. But on a personal note, I'm particularly excited about this process because my mother lives, just a few blocks from this site. So I go by it all the time, really excited to create a new architecture to really enhance the civic architecture of the community. With that, let me introduce our project manager, Andrea. Why don't you take it from here?
Hi, everybody. My name is Andrea Shaw, and as Sean said, I'm the project manager for this project and an architect. And I'm equally excited to be working on it. It's an amazing project and feel grateful for us to have the opportunity to be your architects. I've been working specifically on school projects for the past 15 years, so it's quite a focus for me, and I'm excited to be here. So let's see, next, Omar.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Omar Calderon, and I'm a design principal with Perkins Eastman Architects, and I'll be the lead designer for the project. I've been associated with Perkins Eastman for over 20 years, 23 years to be exact, and about 17 or 18 of those years have been doing schools and learning environments. I'm equally excited to be part of this team and be of service to the learning community. And Andrea, she didn't say her whole story. You're actually a neighbor too, right? You live in the region. And so this project is important to us on many levels. I'll pass it over to my colleague, Brett.
Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Brett Swayatoka. I'm also an architect with Perkins Eastman Architects. I've been with Perkins Eastman for the past 12 years. The most recent 10 years have been focused and specialized on housing design. So I've been assisting the team with the test fits of the site to support both the school and housing on the site. And I will pass now to Sarah.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Sarah Watling. I'm trained as a landscape architect. I'm supporting Andrea in the PM project management role. I love big, complex projects. So I'm really thrilled to be working on this. I will pass it on to Teresa, and then it looks like Kyle's our last one on the design team.
Hi, everyone. I'm Teresa Del Nino with McGinnis Del Nino Architects. Our firm is locally here in North Old Town. I'm also very interested in this project. I have 3 TC grads that went through ACPS school basically from kindergarten, and happy to have been working with ACPS these past 20 years. So Kyle.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kyle Bollinger with Kimley Horn. I'm the civil engineer for the project. I've been working with ACPS on and off on a variety of projects over the last 10 plus years. So very, very excited to be working on this project.
All right, is that everybody? Thank you, guys. So we really appreciate having Perkins Eastman here. And their whole team. We'll continue to see a lot more of them, especially as we actually get into the design. I just want to remind everybody kind of where we are in the process, because we've been through this a few times now for those of you who've been a part of MacArthur or Patrick Henry or other projects. So this is what we call pre-design. We're going to figure out exactly what we want to build, what we need. Then we're going to develop a document that has all of those things and list them so we can be very clear and on the same page and begin to look at our budget and what we'll be able to afford. And then we'll move into the design concepts. So some of the next steps, the superintendent will be creating a superintendent's team, and those letters will be going out to civic associations. If you're a member or the president or of your civic association, just please be on the lookout for that. We are asking for a pretty quick turnaround on a representative. It will function similar to our advisory groups, and we've kind of specified the expectations. So just please be on the lookout for that. And we'll also be having a series of community meetings as we get into the design process. And like I said before, a lot of work still happening on the educational programming side with our educational design team and all of our education leaders that we have, because this isn't just replacing the same thing. This is building something new and doing something different for our high school, and we're really excited about it. So with that, again, you can go to our feedback comment form and just give us your comments. It's mostly surrounding the test fits and some of the stuff you saw today. You can email us at any time. That email has been open and it comes directly to us, so we can certainly respond. And you can also continue to view our updates online and watch the school board meeting next week on February 4th. And so with that, thank you all. Have a good night.